Hello, CUFI members, CLs, state and city directors. Welcome to our video series. Today, we're going to be talking about anti-Semitism and one of our policy priorities, the Never Again Education Act. Before we do, I just want to say specifically, now that I, along with many people out there, find ourselves as being homeschool teachers, teaching our own children, I want to salute and thank all educators, teachers, homeschool moms. You are called, you are blessed, you are gifted, and I am more grateful for you now more than ever. Also to our faith leaders, our pastors, community leaders, you're being called upon during these times to give more of yourself than you ever have. And I just pray a special prayer of blessing over you, your families, as you keep your community safe, as you keep your congregation spiritually fed. I am believing that on the other side of this, that we are going to hear each other's stories and see how we united more than ever during this time. And we give God the glory for all of those miracles that we're going to hear about on the other side. So moving along to what we're talking about today, the anti-Semitism, pardon me, it's not the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. We already got that done. It's the Never Again Education Act. But really those two fit together hand in hand. The Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, which of course was adoption of the definition of anti-Semitism, and the Never Again Education Act. We'll talk about those two separately. Everybody joining me today knows that the lessons that you teach in the classroom today are going to become the policies in the public square tomorrow. We have very extreme examples of this working in the schools that are funded by Hamas, unfunded schools in the Palestinian refugee camps. When you indoctrinate children through textbooks to hate Jews, they are going to grow up to hate Jews. It's very effective. The opposite is also true. Dark and light cannot coexist. When you arm children with the truth, and they will be able to confront a lie. That is what the Never Again Education Act does. It arms students with the truth, the horrors of the Holocaust, what actually happened, so that they can confront lies when they are presented with them in society, and that they can ensure that never again is not just a slogan. It's a call to action. And we're committed to doing this in several ways. As I said, the first step was getting the definition adopted, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, which was adopted through an EO, adopting the State Department definition of anti-Semitism. So what that did, that's our sword, right? That's our ultimate measure of protection, that when harassment takes place on a college campus, we have a yardstick by which to measure, was that harassment motivated by anti-Semitism or not? You cannot defeat what you cannot define. Defining anti-Semitism was essential. Anti-Semitism was happening on college campuses, and it was not being properly prosecuted. Now with this definition, we have a way to properly prosecute it so that when all the evidence comes in, they literally have a definition, examples to look at. Was it motivated by anti-Semitism or not? And then the consequences that follow will follow. Having said that, so you have your sword, you have your ultimate protective measure, but what about the shield? What can we do to make sure that it doesn't always have to get to that we're not dealing with the unlawful harassment, that the harassment stops in the first place? That's where the Never Again Education Act comes in. Some of you may say, why is this really needed right now? The rising tide of anti-Semitism on campuses, not only colleges, universities, but also schools, elementary schools, middle schools. This would apply to all campuses. Just at our last leadership summit, at our last summit in Washington, D.C., we were talking about shining the light on the world's oldest hatred, that, you know, the hoods of their forefathers were now being masked as euphemisms, anti-Semitism. Instead of saying anti-Semitism, you would say anti-Zionism. You would say, I'm for BDS, boycott, divest, and sanction. It was words that were masking these hatreds. Well, fast forward a few months, that mask has fallen off. No longer are masks even being worn. You have people that are being attacked in their homes on Hanukkah with machetes. You have shootings happening in synagogues. You have people afraid to walk on the street wearing their kippah in certain neighborhoods because they're being attacked in broad daylight. There's no mask anymore. And what we have to do is, through the power of education, make sure that the truth about the horrors of the Holocaust, anti-Semitism, what it looks like it becomes the law of the land in terms of our children in America, our school children of all ages, so that they grow up knowing how to spot this hatred and defeat this scourge. So specifically, this bill passed in January in the House. January 27th, symbolic because it was the liberation of Auschwitz on that day. It passed in January. Then it was referred to the Senate, where now it sits in the Committee of Energy and Natural Resources. Obviously, the Senate's been very busy the past several days with the COVID Relief Act or bill, what have you. But we do want to encourage our senators to support this, because that's going to show that A, support for Israel and its people is not a partisan issue, and that even in times of crisis, even in times of divided political factions, that Israel should not become a partisan issue, and we can get this done. It's really our promise and our responsibility to do this, to make sure that history is not repeated. So specifically what the bill does, I just want to break it down. It's very simple. It authorizes the director of the United States Holocaust Museum to support Holocaust education programs. I want to focus on that for a second. It does not create another bureaucracy. It does not create a committee. It identifies an expert in the field, the Holocaust Museum of the United States. They are the ones tasked with identifying groups that are already focused on Holocaust education or best equipped to disseminate the information about Holocaust education. The goal being to develop and nationally disseminate accurate, relevant, and accessible resources to promote understanding about how and why the Holocaust happened. This would include regional workshops to provide teachers and technical assistance on how to incorporate Holocaust education within state and local education standards. So essentially what this does is it takes systems that are already in place, the Holocaust Museum, local school districts, local state education boards, other groups that are already educating, and it puts them all together, creating the appropriate synergy, the appropriate pipeline, if you will, to funnel these resources to make sure that these programs are getting funded properly, that it's not an unfunded mandate, that it's not something that we just say in principle sounds great, but we actually have no way of carrying out. This is the blueprint for how you carry it out. Very simple, should not be controversial. The good news is right now it's very bipartisan, 33 Democrats, 21 Republicans, 2 independents. So it does have the support that it needs, but we need more. We need more to sign on. So if you want to know if your senator has supported it yet, you can go to CUFI actionfund.org and you can have a list there to see if your senator has supported it. If not, we urge you to give your senators a call, shoot them an email, urge them to co-sponsor Senate Bill 2085. Again, it's going to show that that support for Israel is not a partisan issue. Support for its people is not a partisan issue, that anti-Semitism is real, that it's a problem in the United States of America, and that we're willing to confront it. We are seeing quite literally now what happens when you are not willing to confront a disease. And similarly, we are not going to stick our heads in the sand when it comes to anti-Semitism in America. We are going to confront it head on. We are going to confront it on multiple fronts. And one of those is education, which is what we are committed to do. Again, CUFIactionfund.org if you want to see if your senator has already sponsored it. If not, please call your senator and ask them to co-sponsor Senate Bill 2085. Friends, this is a tough time. And this is when we find out, A, what we're made of, and B, who our friends are. And right now you have cities, nations, people, states looking out for themselves, looking out for a number one. And that's understandable in times of crisis. You have the nation of Israel, our greatest friend and ally in the Middle East, sending to America 10 million doses of hydroxychloroquine. I'm probably not even saying that right. A medicine that helps treat, allegedly, in this virus. They're sending 10 million doses to the United States. That's what friends do. And Israel is our greatest friend and ally in the region, if not the world. We need to keep that relationship strong, and building support for Israel and its people at every single stage of life, including education at the elementary school level and beyond, is essential. I believe that during this time of crisis that we are going to unite more than ever. I believe it will be our finest hour. I think that the nations of the world are learning what CUFI has known from the beginning, that when you are united, there's quite literally nothing that you cannot do. We are with you. It is ironic that in our individual isolation, we have never been more in the same boat. And CUFI is here for you, our members, now more than ever. If there's anything you need, please reach out to us. We are going to remain steadfast and undeterred in our mission of support for Israel in confronting anti-Semitism in all of its forms, wherever it may be found. And we cannot do it without each and every one of you. Thank you all for joining us in these series that we're doing. We look forward to being on the other side of this, to hugging once again, to going to our events, edifying each other, and growing our organization to do what God has called us to do, to stand with Israel and the Jewish people. God bless you. Stay safe. Blessings to you and those you love. Thank you so much.